So hello, hi everyone, what's up and what's good? As in what's good on the internet, what's good in life. I'm Akeem Balaam, aka Ally495, welcoming all of you here on the Real Sports Talk Network to once again another edition of our weekend recap show, 10 minutes on the clock. So let's get right to it, and I want to start by congratulating this year's Stanley Cup champion, Los Angeles Kings. Congratulations to the Kings as they won their first Stanley Cup in over 40 plus years. And the Kings coming from an 8 seed. I said this on Twitter. In the NHL, you can be great even if you're number 8. Because let's face it, home ice means squat. It does not mean anything in the NHL, and the Kings proved it once again, going through the top 3 seeds in the NHL's Western Conference, including their first round matchup versus the Vancouver Canucks, whom all the hockey prognosticators were predicting to come out of the West to get to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they were eliminated by the Kings. Then they went to the Stanley Cup Finals. They went through the Western Conference semifinals, and of course the Western Conference the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the finals, and then eventually the Stanley Cup Finals, where they beat the New Jersey Devils in 6 games. Now that Game 6 really did it, especially that 5-minute major penalty that came from New Jersey Devils Steve Bernier. That pretty much did it, because in that 5 minutes, the LA Kings won that game. They got 1 goal from Trevor Lewis and 2 from Dustin Brown. 2 of those. What can Brown do for the Los Angeles Kings? Score 2 goals in that penalty period, as they were up 3-0 going into intermission after the first period, and then it was all over after that. They couldn't really recover after what happened there. So after 44 years, and even after having Wayne Gretzky on their team once upon a time in a controversial move, whom a lot of people up in Edmonton still consider a controversial move, when he went from Edmonton to Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Kings right now are your 2012 Stanley Cup champions after 40 plus years. Moving on from that, and moving on to the NBA Finals, where we have the Miami Heat and the Oklahoma City Thunder battling it out to determine who will be the champs this year in the NBA. And right now, it's knotted at 1 game apiece. And the thing that I've been noticing after watching both of those games is that the Miami Heat really know how to start out good in the first half, and in the second half it's usually dominated by the Oklahoma City Thunder. A couple of things I want to get off my chest. First of all, LeBron James is proving himself. I believe he's had 2 30-plus point games so far in both of the games so far these NBA Finals. Game 3 is going to be Sunday night in Miami, but so far he's proving himself. Everybody who's talking about he's a choker, he doesn't know how to close out games. Well, he had 30 points in that game. In that game 1, he had the most points in that game 1 for anybody on the Miami Heat. If you wanted to criticize anybody for why the Miami Heat lost that game 1, you had to criticize Dwayne Wade. Where was he? Even though he had 19 points, his shot percentage was pretty daggone low, and they let Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook pretty much come back on him. And then in Game 2, Russell Westbrook, even though the Thunder were making a furious comeback after another slow start, where I believe the Miami Heat, after a certain point in that first quarter, were up on Oklahoma by a score of 18-2. Huh? Come again, NBA teams do not get blown out in the first quarter at one point by a score of 18-2, and even with that, the Thunder tried to come back. But I said this in my finals preview that I put up, that's on here on the Real Sports Talk Network when I did that video. I said this: Russell Westbrook in that Game 2 wound up taking more shots than Kevin Durant. Somebody needs to shake Russell Westbrook, and he's had this problem for a while. Somebody, whether it's Scott Brooks or Kevin Durant or somebody on the Oklahoma City Thunder, has to go up to Russell Westbrook and say, "Hey, Russell Westbrook, we understand you're a great player, but once again, in the fourth quarter, you're much better off playing a Rajon Rondo-like role, because last time I checked, this ain't your team. Even though you want it to be your team, this team is Kevin Durant's team. When it's fourth quarter time, pass the ball to number 35. You saw the way he was shooting in that fourth quarter. pass him the ball in crunch time, it's Kevin Durant's team. So that's another thing that happened with this NBA Finals now being 1-1, and the Oklahoma City Thunder having problems trying to get Russell Westbrook to actually pass Kevin Durant the ball. We'll see what happens coming up in Game 3 this Sunday night. On to Major League Baseball. Matt Cain's perfect game. Now, this has been, I believe, the 5th perfect game, and one of the more eye-popping perfect games that you can see out of a pitcher. I believe he struck out 14 in that perfect game that he threw. And this has been the 5th perfect game so far that's been thrown. You had the combined no-hitter that the Mariners had. You had Jared Weaver's no-no. You had Johan Santana's no-no. Philip Humber's perfect game. And now this. What is this? This is looking more, once again, like another year of the pitcher. Just like 2010 was, just like 2011 was. Once again, Matt Cain once again reestablishing himself as one of the top pitchers in all of Major League Baseball. He's right up there with Justin Verlander and Clayton Kershaw and everybody else that's in that upper echelon. Roy Halladay as well, in that upper echelon of pitchers in Major League Baseball. So congrats to Matt Cain throwing I believe the 21st or 22nd perfect game in Major League history, and the first perfect game in the long history of the San Francisco Giants, dating all the way back to once upon a time when they played at the Polo Grounds when they were once the New York Giants. So congrats to Matt Cain and the San Francisco Giants organization. And since I have a lot more time on the clock, I also wanted to get these topics in. What happened with David Stern and Jim Rome? David Stern went on Jim Rome's radio show, and Jim Rome asked Stern a comment that had to do with the perception that the NBA lottery is fixed. This is because of a lot of people that are trying to say that how can the New Orleans Hornets be number 1? How can they get the number 1 pick in the upcoming draft when the Charlotte Bobcats had by far the best record, even though there's still a 75% chance of that worst record team not even getting that first pick? And David Stern's response was, "Have you stopped beating your wife yet?" Huh? Come again? I'm not that much of a Jim Rome fan myself. I think people like Jim Rome, Colin Cowherd, and Dino Costa. Who knows who Dino Costa is? He hosts a show on Chris Russo's Mad Dog Radio on Sirius XM satellite radio. I put him, Rome, and Colin Cowherd into the airhead blowhard section of the sports talk aisle. But David Stern's response to Jim Rome was totally unacceptable. It was totally unnecessary for the occasion, and it was very offensive, I imagine, to those people, to those women who I imagine have been beaten up by abusive husbands in the past. So a bad move by there. Red card if this was international football on soccer. Red card. You can tell I'm in Euro 2012 mode. And also the last thing I want to mention before I get out of here is that the Toronto City Council last Saturday, I wanted to get this in, but I had so much to do last week that I couldn't get this in. Toronto City Council voted last week to bid for the 2024 Olympics. It's one of the worst kept secrets in Olympic circles that Toronto wants the 2024 Olympics. They tried for 2028, but Beijing got those. They're trying again, it looks like, for 2024. I think personally that a U.S. city is going to have to bid. If they want the Summer Games, they are going to have to bid now for 2024, because if Toronto wins the 2024 Summer Olympics, the U.S. is screwed, and that party ain't coming back to the States anytime soon, like, say, probably not till the 2040. So if they want the Summer Olympics, they better bid for 2024, the United States Olympic Committee, after they got that deal with the IOC, which will free up all that info for a future bid. So, NBA playoffs, Kings winning the Stanley Cup, Toronto wants the Olympics, the Stern Jim Rome comments, and also Matt Cain's no-hitter, everything that went down this past week over the past few days as well. So that's your edition of 10 Minutes on the Clock for this week here on the Real Sports Talk Network. Once again, rate, comment, react, reply, add, and subscribe. Look forward to reading your comments. As always, I'm just one dude talking about sports with all he is. I'm just one dude talking about sports. So what you think about all of this, and also in particular, what do you think is going to happen in the future with the NBA Finals as the scene and the series will now shift for 3 games in Miami? Because remember, 2, 3, 2-2 format, not 2-2-1-1-1 like in the previous series prior to. So, once again, I'm just one guy talking about nothing. Until next time, Akeem Balaam, LI495, Real Sports Talk Network, 10 minutes on the clock. See you on the internet someplace. See you next week.